I guess I'll go next. Good morning. Can you all hear me? Okay, I'm sorry. Can you all hear me or not?
Well, I'll jump in. Can you hear me?
Yes, I'll go next. Can everyone hear me?
In this inaugural term, the DICR board will be reviewing learning materials for a human communication textbook.
So a couple of years ago, I was the Macmillan field representative for South Florida. I'd moved down from Massachusetts to what really is one of the most diverse territories for Macmillan learning. There was a book that I was really excited about showing to instructors called Choices and Connections. We had one professor at Palm Beach State College adopt it, and then the entire department was doing a textbook search, and I thought we had a really good chance of winning that adoption. I went around and talked with the professors who were on the committee who were tasked with selecting the book. And I learned from one of the professors that one of their colleagues had an issue with one of the photos in Choices and Connections, and that I should talk with her. And when we sat down and talked, she pointed out this photo of Serena Williams.
So I just distinctly remembering that when I was reviewing this textbook at that time, that there was that image. There was a couple other things that I noticed along the way, but in regards to Serena Williams, she was celebrating possibly a win or a hit, whatever it might be, and she was like, which was very exciting. So I get that moment, but I also find that there's other more attractive images. I thought it played into this kind of angry Black woman, and yet we're talking about self-concept and identity, and you're feeling very, happy with yourself, you're feeling very confident, you're feeling very beautiful. I didn't feel that exemplified that as far as the image itself.
Now, this photo of Serena Williams, I think from our perspective and our editorial perspective, showed a woman who had just won a big tennis match and was exalting and was very powerful. But Professor Martin said, from her perspective, it really played into the stereotype of a angry Black woman. So that was a really interesting conversation, but it didn't end there. And it really wasn't about the photo for Professor Martin. She said, this photo selection makes me wonder if the people who are making these books are people who look like me or people who look like you. That really stuck with me, and that was something that I didn't have an easy answer to.
Well, I think that it was an honest conversation, and I think that every conversation that you have is a learning experience, something you learn you do better at, and some things you learn that maybe I made a mistake and I need to maybe move forward and apologize and figure out how we can do better. And I think that's how Alan approached it, and that, hey, I never would have thought about that. And that's what we're also teaching in our classroom about perspective. It's like my perspective would be completely different from Alan's, being that he's a white male and I'm a Black female. But by the time Alan and I spoke, I did think he understood, and that's the key. It's a learning experience, and that I didn't see it like you saw it, and that maybe if we took a further look at it, maybe there's other images as far as the media or in the textbook themselves that we can address future tense.
A year later, I was hired as the program manager for human communication at Macmillan Learning. I came in-house. I was sort of in charge of this little editorial division, helping produce and create these human communication textbooks, including Choices and Connections. And at the top of my list from day one was how we can revise these books to bring in the perspective of Professor Martin and other people who share her concerns. That's when we decided to form the Human Communication Editorial Board for Diversity, Inclusion, and Culture Response with Pedagogy, or the DICR for short.
The DICR board is dedicated and committed to advancing instructional materials and discourse, promoting, I want to have an all-inclusive clause there.
Think about the face of the students who are in front of us, but also prepare them for the diverse array of people and faces and backgrounds they're going to be coming across in the future.
People and backgrounds.
In order to prepare students to be global citizens. What about adding advocacy in its various forms?
Okay.
There should be some focus with the fact that it's not just about what happens in the classroom, but the preparation for, a global world or a global workplace that they will be entering once they leave college.
I think we can add that and just make that say the globally diverse workplace.
Okay, I think we have it. DICR is when students can see themselves and their learning through representation of a diverse array of people, abilities, and backgrounds they can identify with and will encounter in the future, to promote self-reflection, critical thinking, a sense of security and safety, civil discourse, and to prepare them for global citizenship, a diverse workplace, and advocacy in various forms.
Period.
Period.
Yeah.
I like it.
So I will say that the work we've done thus far with the DICR, we did come up with a mission statement, and along with that mission statement, we had a chance to apply those skill sets to looking at the new edition of Choices and Connections. And so that was, again, a pleasing experience, because now we're taking a look page by page, word by word, image by image, to see if those things actually apply or meet those goals that we set for ourselves with the DICR. And so I think that's monumental, because again, this is the first time ever, and I've reviewed books before in the past, but the first time ever that we've had a say-so, looking beyond just the content and the context of it, but looking at further application of diversity and inclusiveness.
The DICR board pointed out, first of all, some of the most obvious forms of bias in learning materials, which is representation. Are there people or experiences that are underrepresented? Are there people or experiences that are overrepresented or misrepresented and play into stereotypes? Students who read this book and experience it in their classrooms are not just going to be human communication scholars, but they are really going to transform into culturally self-aware communicators, resilient, empowered communicators. We need to continue to move in the direction that we have started with this DICR board, to bring in new voices, to bring in people who are underrepresented in the publishing industry, and to create materials where DICR is fundamental, not ancillary to their mission.
Well, I can say my work with the DICR has been, I guess, the most surprising and yet the most gratifying thing I've done possibly in the last year. I was excited that Alan reached out to say, hey, I heard you, and we're looking at doing something different with this textbooks when we have the next edition. And so, again, it was the most gratifying because someone heard me, which is what you always tell your students, that speak up, you have a voice, and that maybe it'll make a difference.
The DICR board in this initiative would never have happened without the backing and the culture that is being built here at Macmillan Learning around diversity and inclusiveness. I come into work feeling empowered to improve our learning materials and our day-to-day culture around diversity and inclusiveness. And that's something I'm really proud of.
Actually, I'm going to interrupt real quick. What really should be, I guess, the part that's strong, because it really is a run-on. It's just one. It should be two sentences instead of just one.
Yeah.
Nice, truncated first part, and then I think you can have the part about where they encounter for the future how to promote self-reflection and critical thinking and all those things. That should be a second sentence.
I am the development editor working on Choices and Connection. I'll be communicating your feedback to the authors and then working with the authors to basically get your feedback and your ideas into the actual manuscript.
The communication that we had with our professors has changed what we're doing in our texts. So I think that the best thing that companies can do is really listen to their customers and respond, and that, I think, is kind of a bond of trust that we create with one another.